Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Man Behind the Shield, and they continue to do it. This really amped up the game and the implications for what the LMDs are going to be used for. They're really using them to great effect, and I can't wait to see where this is going to be ending up. So, this episode started out, and we kind of see a kind of sparring match between Coulson and Daisy, and it kind of goes a little bit funny because Daisy hits Coulson and he's like hanging in midair, and we see him messing around with the framework. Now, granted, this is the ones that Fitz has, and he's talking about how it's more limited than what Radcliffe would be using, and kind of showing the implications about what that can be. So that was just a fun little thing to kind of show what the framework can really be used for, since we've only got some snippets of May and Agnes from the last couple episodes. Agnes going in there to pretty much die and have her conscience restored, and May just in a simple loop. We don't know how much more expansive this framework has become and what it could ultimately be used for. And they're pretty much going through and trying to figure out where Mace is. So they had a tracker on the suit, and they go to Alaska. They find the suit, and then they find this board that's got like all the stuff that they've been using to track Coulson. And Coulson's like, well, this is kind of weird, and glad I don't have Facebook, because then that kind of stuff would be on there. And this is why I don't have that. And then that's kind of where the episode kind of has its divergences. We've got one that's centered in the present, and then we've got one that's centered in the past and gives us more information on the Superior. And we see that it was like a kind of earlier mission for Coulson and May, who comes along later on because she requested the mission, as she tells Coulson later. But Coulson's like, I told them I didn't need backup. He was trying to like talk his way through using his Russian that's got a little bit of weird kinks, since he said cat for some reason, and he doesn't quite know all the vocabulary. And May, of course, came in and knocked the dude out to let him into this mining place, which, of course, is another place that we will go in the present, because that's the big kind of key place. And they were there to retrieve an 084 object. And they go in, and then this SVR unit comes, and who's in that unit? The Superior. And they get away. May, of course, makes it look like she's speeding off, and then Coulson's captured, and they go. May runs in and gets him out. And it's kind of cool to see this, like, beginning of, well, not the exact beginning, but, like, the seeds of, like, a Coulson-May relationship, how it started, and kind of how we're going to be seeing it going forward. Because this kind of influences, I think, what's going to be happening with, like, LMDs and all that later on. So we get into the present, and they, of course, go to the mining place, and that's where they find two bodies. It's like, what the heck? One of them's got a cell phone in their mouth. So they pick it up, and it's the Superior talking about how those people in his unit were killed because they had let the object get away. And the Superior is just laying on all this stuff on Coulson. It's like, he had an objective too. He didn't want your people to be killed, and he, of course, lays all the blame on Coulson, not on his superiors or whatnot, interestingly enough. So he's going through all this. We see him pretty much trying to torture Mace to get information and all that, kind of playing with him. And Ada's watching this and observing and not really having much to say about it, just more kind of taking information in and I think seeing what the Superior could be used for. And of course we see some cool character moments with Mace kind of resisting. He gets out at one point and uses the kind of last of his super strength to get out of the chains before he's getting tortured, and kind of beating up this, chokes out this one dude and then fights the Superior, but the Superior is able to take him out pretty quickly. And as we're seeing with Mace, he's talking about how he wants an in-and-out shield. He knows that they gave him what he calls poison to give him fake superpowers, and that they're just using you. Coulson uses you. He hides behind people as shields to protect himself. And of course, Mace is like, screw that. I believe in S.H.I.E.L.D. I believe in Coulson. And he's like, well, that's too bad, and lets his people come in and start beating the crap out of Mace. So by this point, we've had the rest of the SHIELD team kind of figuring out where the Superior could be with this like sub base that's like a sub front, which was perfect because of their submarine base. And we also get some other character moments in here with like Mac kind of pretty much laying the blame for everything on Fitz. And I also like seeing later on Simmons talking to Fitz about how, yes, you created these things to help people, but you didn't know that others would use it for harm. That's the thing. And Mac's trying to tell him that he's pretty much sounding like a mad scientist, and it's like, no. He helped with Ada and helped with the framework because these are tools. They could be used to help people, rehabilitate people. If you make an advanced humanoid kind of robot, you can create more advanced humanoid cybernetics to help people. That has led to helping of Coulson having a better robotic arm. And it's people using it in bad ways that should be the main issue, not the tool itself. The tool can inherently be neither good nor bad. It is the intent of the person behind it that is the key thing. And of course, Radcliffe is using this to play shadow games and spy games to achieve his goal that we do not exactly know yet. We know that Agnes was a part of that plan. But I think since he's gotten a hold of the Darkhold, it has gone way beyond that. We've seen that as he's been spending more time in the framework, and like the Superior was talking to him, he was like, I want to talk to him, and of course he is like, you can talk to me, I'm authorized to act on his behest and all that, and he's like, I'm gonna get ready to take off the helmet, and she's like, no, that shredded his mind, back off. And then of course they get Radcliffe out, they're talking about how everything's set up and everything's ready to go, and everybody gets to the submarine base, and some interesting stuff starts to happen. We get to see, like, Fitz and Simmons kind of, like, going into comms and trying to, like, figure out what's going on. Fitz understands that this is too low-tech to house the framework because it's a thing that can recreate pretty much the world. That is going to be a hardware and power-intensive device to be using, and this doesn't exactly fit what's going on, so they're using it to take any information out that they can. And then, of course, they get the call that there's been an Ada sighting somewhere else in the complex. So Simmons and pretty much a random redshirt dude go off to try and find Ada. And, of course, once they're like, we can't find her, he makes this kind of cool labyrinth reference because she's saying it's like a labyrinth in here. He's like, watch out that we don't find the Goblin King and whatnot. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. There's, like, interesting references like the Oculus Rift in regards to the framework and all that. And then it just starts getting a little bit different because we see Mace is still getting beat up. Mac goes in, has a pretty good brawl with him. Coulson comes in after he'd had his confrontation with the Superior where he whacks his monologue about, like, Coulson being pretty much the impetus for every bad thing that's going on. And that how he wants it to be humans first and to stop all this alien infection and all that stuff. He's like, I don't really care. That's pretty much a blank origin story for me. I don't even remember the object I got, but she's got more interest in beating you up, so Daisy comes in, and we get a pretty cool fight between them, because it's a little bit of a mix between Daisy using her powers and kind of having an interesting conversation while they're fighting, because we get more into the motivations and see that Daisy hasn't been completely turned off to humans, because she's got seen good and bad, but she's ready to fight against those that will persecute others, such as the Superior. And the Superior's like, you're a cheater, and I've strived for perfection. And she's like, no, you're just playing by the old rules. The game has changed. After they had like a cool kind of knife fight, she just uses her powers to drop the ceiling on them. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, listen, for Inhumans, after they figure out whether they're the like whole effects of their powers, you'd probably just want to live a normal life. And these powers they get are a blessing and a curse because you got to learn how to balance yourself with them. It's not just, oh, I've got superpowers, I can do anything I want now. There's consequences to those. And Daisy has learned that and is trying to make the world a better place. And if you are able to do that for people, it works. But then, of course, people feel slighted because you have something that they don't, and you didn't supposedly work to achieve it. It's that, like, you earned it or you didn't earn it. And it's like, oh crap, that's pretty interesting stuff. And then of course seeing Daisy just pretty much take him out, it's like, alright. So this is where everything starts to converge. We see that the submarine leaves, and we get some interesting kind of things in the last part of this episode. They get back to the base because Coulson said, listen, let's live to fight another day. They get back, and Fitz and Simmons are like, there's a lot of stuff that wasn't accounted for. We spent more time in there than we should have, I think. There's like, we saw a lot of different stuff in there, like gas and all that. And they like look and see that the LMD detector was disabled. And, of course, it was also scrubbed from the system. They see, because that is sent to, like, Simmons' inbox, and she looks at it, and she sees that it says that there were 4 LMDs when we see Daisy, Coulson, Mace, and Mac. And it's like, holy shit, they frickin' switched out 4 top people in one operation. That's a big, huge thing. And then we see kind of like Fitz and Simmons kind of freaking out a little bit and just trying to process what's going on, because it looks like the next episode is going to be them trying to deal with this. And I'm getting a kind of vibe from like John Carpenter's The Thing mixed with like Skynet stuff. It's like, what do we do to like get out of here and minimize the damage, because this is huge. We don't know what their programming is, and we don't know what their main objectives are. And then we, of course, see that towards the end where Coulson takes out the May LMD and shows a kind of like relationship with the May LMD. But I don't know if the May LMD knows that the Coulson LMD is an LMD. It's going to be interesting because they show more of the feelings that we had seen in the past, even though we haven't seen the real Coulson and the real May actually act on those feelings yet. And it's just like, holy crap. As we then shift and see that Ada has kind of like taken care of the superior dude, because she's like, alright, minimal life signs detected, but guess what? There's still a use for you, you filth, because you talked about his father bowing and scraping to a dude who had achieved money and power from his father, and the worst thing possible is for someone to aspire to be scum, and that's what he thought of his father. And there's a purpose for filth, and that's of course Ada learning that, and we had even seen her when the superior was talking to her about this earlier in the episode, and then playing with the necklace. So even though Ada is with Ratcliffe, she might possibly start going on her own path, because she is definitely showing signs of becoming fully aware of herself. Now, granted, she is an advanced AI and is very smart and pretty much has a kind of definition of self. But I think we're going to get to a point where she is going to pretty much destroy Radcliffe's programming and actually work on her own volition. Now, depending upon what Radcliffe's aims are and what he has learned from the Darkhold and what the Darkhold's endgame is, it's really up in the air. We've gotten to a point where we've gone from everybody trying to go and take on Radcliffe and Ada and the Superior to the reversal of just Fitz and Simmons are on their own at the moment. That's a huge blow and creates some interesting kind of occasions to see how they can get out of this interesting situations, because now we're in the underdog. I mean, granted, we've been in this position before, but they're in a very underdog situation here that they're going to have to go outside the box and try and figure out who they can trust and get them from outside almost. And I just can't wait to see where this is going to be going and what's going to happen when everybody's in the framework. What's that going to do to people? How these LMDs will change the situation and relationships with people. That's the cool stuff and cool implications that we can get from this. So, those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.